Housing is so expensive in California that a school district is asking students' families to let teachers move in with them. Business Insider India. So this is coming from India News Business Insider. Now, I haven't seen this story in American news yet. So what I'm going to try to do is, without diverting, I'm going to try to read through the most of this. I'm going to give you the link so you can check it out yourself. California's housing market is one of the most expensive in the country. In the city of Milpitas, many teachers cannot afford to live in the area. As home prices and rents soar in California, housing affordability in the Golden State has plummeted to a 15-year low. And in Milpitas, a city located at the southern tip of the San Francisco Bay, housing has become so expensive that many teachers can no longer afford to live in the area. We've lost out on some employees that we tried to recruit because once they see how much it costs to live here, they determine that it's just not possible. Milpitas Unified School District Superintendent Cheryl Jordan. After having trouble attracting educators and facing high turnover rates, the school district has come up with a radical solution. We will ask the local families to take in cash-strapped teachers. Jordan says the innovative plan is working. So far, we've had 34 respondents who are interested in providing a room or small space on their property for our educators if needed, she said. In California, many teachers grapple with housing affordability because, like many educators throughout the United States, they are underpaid. The state's instructors earn 15.5% less than their college-educated non-teaching peers from the years 2014 through 2019, according to data collected from the Economic Policy Institute. Well, let's just stop right there real quick. The state's instructors earn 15.5% less than their college-educated, non-teaching peers. The state's instructors earn 15.5% less than their college-educated, non-teaching peers between 2014 and 2019. Now, we're never going to know the full depth of this situation, because they're not going to break down who's got what degree, what does each person teach, how much they get paid. We'll never know the full depth of it. But the point is, the college-educated who are not teaching, who they're probably talking about some of the people in administration. That's what it kind of seems like to me, because I can't think about anybody else who's non-teaching who would be in one of these positions, with the exception of somebody who might be an administrator. I don't know anything about California's Board of Education, so I'm not going to pretend that I do. But it's not only teachers who are having a hard time financially. The state's residents are burdened by costs in general. According to consumer financial company Bankrate, the cost of living in the state is now 39% higher than the national average. And the U.S. home buying frenzy has not done Californians any favors either. Intense buyer competition, limited supply, and soaring inflation have led to exuberant price gains in California's housing market. Although growth has begun the median home price in California reached a staggering $788,000 for the median home price. The median home price. So let's understand this real quick. I've been showing you shit in New York that's worth $500,000, $600,000, $700,000. Let's just understand this. The median home price in California reached a staggering $788,000 in July. The median home, not the best, not the worst, the median. Now, the median can be thrown off by having extremely high price properties and not so much by extremely low price properties, because it's the high price properties that drag that median further and further to the right. But the median home price is $788,000. In America, I kind of stopped paying attention to it, but you can look it up yourself. The median, well, in fact, no, I could do it. I got a computer right here. The median home house price, median house price in America. Now, this is all of the states, so that includes the shitty houses and that includes the expensive ones. But I remember when they would say, okay, like I'm looking at the news, it says median home price in North Texas has increased by 30% July 20th. Median San Francisco home price soars to record 1.6 million. March 17th. Home prices pushing families out of Austin, Texas as median prices rise to $500,000. That was March. I remember in America, when the median home price was about $400,000. But right here, they're telling you that in California, the median price is $788,679, which I might as well just say $789,000. Rents in the state are likely to become more expensive, too. While the state's AB 1482 rent control law prevents landlords from raising rent by more than 5% annually, with additional breathing room for inflation that caps the rate at 10%. Soaring inflation has given them the green light to hike prices this year. Although prices vary in each metro, the average rent in the state costs more than $2,000, above the national average of $1,770. So let me just stop right there. Now, by the way, between the fact that I just read that the median home price here in California, and they're saying California, $788,000, and we already know what rent is costing people because you're probably hearing people complaining about it. I said this numerous times. The mortgage on my second house was $1,300 a month. And that's only because the house itself was less than $300,000. Now, I want you to tell me, because there's all types of people who like to jump on YouTube and argue, and they talk, oh, yeah, well, you don't need a mortgage. You could just save the money. You could just save the money. Well, you telling me it's impossible to save up $700? Okay, I want you to look right now in your bank account, and I want you then, after you look at that number, I want you to tell me, do you have $788,000? Could you afford the median home price in California? In fact, I'll make it a little bit more fair. I want you to look in your bank account right now, and I want you to tell me whether or not you have $500,000 in cash. Not credit, not a mortgage, $500,000 in cash. I want you to just tell me whether or not you have that. You could just say yes, you could just say no, you could say, yeah, I got it, no, I don't. Honestly, if you don't want to answer, you don't have to answer. But I'm willing to bet, based on the statistics, based on everything the banks are saying, that the average person listening to the sound of my voice ain't got it. Ain't got it. 500 cash, $500,000 in cash. So I know goddamn well you ain't got $788,000 or $789,000 in cash. For the people who love to jump on, because I had some people with the comment, and then I even replied to them. Oh yeah, well I'll just rent and I'll save up money and then buy a house in cash. Let me tell you something. If you really believe that, then fine, believe it. Save up. Go ahead, save up $789,000 in cash. In fact, just like that piece of shit house that I showed you the other day here in Queens that I was looking at, a single family house. That house was only $750,000, which is about $400,000 more than it should be worth. And that would have put it at $350,000. But I personally know that those houses are not worth $200,000. So you're basically paying, imagine this. Imagine you're paying $500,000 more than this place is truly worth. And when I say more than it's worth, you'll be like, oh, yeah, well, the market dictates the prices. And to which I reply, those houses are old. They are made of materials that need, in many parts, to be replaced. But what you're really paying for is the land, and you're getting the house for free. So whatever condition it's in, that's just what you're getting. $789,000. How many of you can tell me right now that you can afford to buy in cash the average median home in California? None of you. Now, listen, Warren Buffett might be listening to me right now. I doubt it. But Jeff Bezos might be listening to me right now. I doubt it. Elon Musk might be listening to me right now. I doubt it. Gucci Mane may be listening to me right now. I doubt it. The average person ain't got it. And if you tried to save up that much cash, you'd be saving for the rest of your natural life, because the Federal Reserve continues to print money and the value of your money continues to go down. Now, I'm not saying that you can't save up enough money to go, because I remember, hey, in Detroit, they were selling burned out shit for $10,000. You could buy a whole piece of burned out house shit for $10,000 cash. But who wants to live there? So I think you get my drift. To address California's affordability crisis, the state's legislators have launched a new controversial housing policy. The bill, named Light Touch Density, was introduced by Senator Scott Wiener, a Democrat from San Francisco, and signed into law by Governor Newsom in 2021. The law, which went into effect at the beginning of this year, allows cities to alter their zoning codes in an effort to increase California's housing development. Pay very close attention to this, because this is what I was talking about in my last video. Previously, it was illegal to build a house more than one unit of housing per parcel in areas designated for single-family zoning. However, the bill now permits the construction of up to 10-unit buildings per parcel. Let me tell you this. One of the houses I own is in Long Island, right across the border from New York City. Because, see, what a lot of people don't understand about New York City is New York City, and I'm just going to say it, and whether you accept it or not, or you want to hear it or not, I don't give a fuck. The simple fact is New York City is at the base of what's actually called Long Island. So if you look at a map, you could see that the 5 boroughs are connected to what's the base of Long Island. Queens, Staten Island, which by its name, you know it's an island. Queens, Staten Island, Manhattan, which is an island. Manhattan is an island. Queens is part of Long Island. Brooklyn is part of Long Island. And Staten Island is its own island. The only part of New York City that's actually connected to the mainland USA is the Bronx. So we have 5 boroughs: Bronx, Manhattan, Queens, Brooklyn, Staten Island. But the only part that's connected to America is the Bronx. That's the only part that's landlocked into the rest of the country. Hope you're with me so far. Now, when New York City was being built, immigrants and whatnot, they basically crowded into the cities. Immigrants, minorities typically, European immigrants, whatever. They crowded into the cities. That's where you get the movie Gangs of New York. So you'll see Manhattan, Brooklyn, all those areas, the Bronx too. Those areas became like an urban sprawl, and those people basically crowded into the city. And New York started to build itself outwards towards Long Island, the rest of Long Island. Now, long story short, Long Island, up until more recently, was extremely segregated. Part of that was because suburbs like Levittown, which were built using the GI Bill, and Jamaica, which was built using the GI Bill after the war, they were segregated. Now, it wasn't possibly at that time de jure segregation, where it's segregation by law. It was de facto segregation. Basically, you had whites in Levittown, and they were expanding Long Island. And then you had blacks in Jamaica, or you had minorities in Jamaica. Jamaica is part of Queens. I don't know if you know much about New York City, but this is basically what it was. So if you remember what I'm saying, you can ask somebody. They'll probably say I'm not telling the truth. I don't give a fuck, but I'm telling you what it is. Even if you watch the movie Gangs of New York, it actually basically backs up what I'm saying. So anyway, Long Island for a very long period of time was segregated. Long Island, in order to make sure that people who didn't have enough money, in order to make sure that they kept low income people out of that area, out of all the rest of Long Island, what they did was they made all of the houses single family zoned for the most part. So in addition to single family zoning, taxes were made as high as possible because you think about it, the further away from the city you get, the less work there was. Now, there were some factories, like for instance, Hicksville had Grumman. Those people who built the F-14 Tomcat. And then later on, they started moving their factories and whatnot. They moved that stuff down to Florida. But they left the factories that were in Long Island, they left a mess out of the water because, as you can imagine, factories pour all that chemicals and shit, pour them right into the ground, right? So parts of Long Island suffer from bad groundwater. In fact, I get what's called a watergram to that house. And the watergram literally tells you what the tests for sulfates and hydrocarbons and all that, they tell you what the tests say. Why am I saying all this? I'm saying all this to say this. What's happening in California is all those single family homes, they're about to ramp that oh my God, they're going to ramp that population up like you can't believe it. I already did the other story the other night about them about to demand that hotels house homeless people in them. Now, never mind the logistics behind all that. These Democrats, and let me be very, very specific because there ain't no Republicans planning this shit because they'd get laughed out of primaries. The Democrats want to eliminate single family housing. They don't mind. And you know what's funny? I was arguing with one of my uncles about this because he's one of these Democrats every fucking day. All they watch is MSNBC and CNN every single day. If you follow me, you know I don't pay attention to those things except to criticize them. That's all they watch. In fact, I was just with one of my family members all fucking day. They're running that January 6th Trump top secret documents. That's all they're running. They refuse to talk about Ukraine because they know Russia's winning. They refuse to talk about Ukraine because they know Russia's winning. They don't talk about it. The only time they will talk about it is just to tell you how evil Putin is because he's burning up those Germans' gas that he would have normally given them, and he's burning this shit away into space. And Europe's about to freeze its ass off. So they don't want to talk about that because the media is heavily controlled and they don't want to talk about it. But all they can talk about is January 6th, Trump and top secret military documents, Trump got the nuclear secrets, whatever. Every now and then they pause for some violence in New York. They talk about who just got hit by a car. They got a grandmama with a accessoride rolled over grandma. Bottom line is, these Democrats are going to raise your populations, and they're going, well, first of all, I think you've seen they're shipping in immigrants, and they're putting them in hotels here in New York City. As I already showed you, California is about to put the homeless into the fucking hotels. They're going to have Pookie and Ray Ray in the Waldorf Astoria ordering Chateaubriand on room service. I already talked about that. When the Democrats try to run that bullshit about the single-family home nonsense, when they try to run that shit out here in Long Island, Long Islanders say there ain't no fucking way in hell I'd vote for no goddamn Democrat. They show you. See, that's the thing. People vote with their money and they vote with their feet. They let these Democrats know you are not running that bullshit here. And here's another truth about these Long Islanders. And what's funny is because this also happens in California, it also happens in parts of Texas. What you end up having is you have people who live in nice, quiet, peaceful suburbs who have to drive into the urban city areas. The urban city areas, higher crime, higher violence. They have to drive into those places every day. They drive in nice and early in the morning, 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. And they don't get to leave those areas until 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5, 6 at night. So they're there for 7 to 9, maybe even 10 hours a day. They drive into the city, they make as much money as they can, and then they take that money back out to the suburbs with them. Tell me I'm lying. Please tell me. Tell me I'm lying. They make their money in the city and they drive it back out to the suburbs where they have a nice, peaceful, segregated community, typically the gun laws are different. Typically in those areas, even if you look at Long Island, we got guns. I can walk into a store in Long Island. I can walk out with an AR-15 in about 30 minutes or less. You go inside New York City, all you got to do is drive 3 miles. You cross that border between Nassau County and New York City, which is it's an imaginary line. New York City has decided, in order to buck back against what the Supreme Court said about concealed carry, New York City is now trying to make it an absolute felony to go into a gun-free zone with a gun. Yeah, because the criminals who've been shooting people in the areas which you're now calling gun-free zones, I'm 100% certain all the criminals are going to obey the law. No, they're not. So the bottom line is, these Democrats in general have fucked things up so badly, and they're continuing to fuck things up so badly, that, as you can see, prices have skyrocketed, especially when it comes to rent and mortgages. A lot of you want to vote Democrats in November, but you know what? You have a right to vote for whatever you want. All I'm telling you is they're fucking things up for you, and they're raising your taxes. Whether you accept it or not, I don't care, because I know some of you can't even argue with. You watch that bullshit on Rachel Maddow all fucking day. You're watching January 6 riots all fucking day. You're listening to Urban View all fucking day. So I wouldn't even bother arguing with you, because I already know your mind, you've been twisted already. You're basically a brainwashed fucking zombie. So I wouldn't even bother arguing with you. What I will say is that your taxes are going up. They've already shown you that they ain't going to really do nothing about your student loans except cause hyperinflation by forgiving certain people's entirety of their loan to make it easier for them to go be the next shoppers of tomorrow. But for the rest of you, you're going to be saddled with that shit probably for the rest of your natural life. That's it. But as for this housing situation, the Democrats try bringing that shit out to Long Island, and these people very quickly are like, fuck that. And the Democrats can't win shit in Long Island. Yes, New York is a very, quote-unquote, liberal blue state, because the inner city is where all the population is. They control the state's electoral votes, basically. They control every single time we have an election, New York is basically going to be blue. So for the most part, they control the elections. And the issue ultimately now becomes, the only people who are keeping them from bringing that bullshit out to Long Island are the people who own homes and vote, single-family homes and vote. But the scary thing is that as prices rise, a lot of those people who are voting change the way they vote, because now they can't even afford to live in their own houses. Prices have gotten out of control, so they can't afford to live in their own houses. And let me just say this before I go back to the story. A lot of these Long Islanders are Trump supporters. No problem. I don't have a problem with that. But what a lot of them won't talk about is the fact that when Trump was in office, Trump ended the mortgage tax deduction. You used to be able to take larger deductions on your taxes past $10,000. A lot of these people have property taxes that range anywhere between $10,000, and in some cases they have incorporated villages where the taxes may exceed $20,000 to $25,000. They may exceed that, depending upon where you live. A lot of the properties are multi-million-dollar properties. Taxes may be double, triple what they are in the city. But when Trump was in office, Donald Trump ended the mortgage tax deduction. Now, everybody was quiet about it because they were Trump supporters, and I guess they were so... And this is one thing you'll learn about me. If you do something stupid or do something wrong, I'm going to attack you. If you do something smart and I like it, I'm not going to attack you. But don't think that just because I support one and not the other, don't think I'm not going to attack you. I'm going to fucking attack you, because either way, I'm going to attack you. If I'm a bear, and if I smell honey on you, you're getting attacked. It's just that simple. I don't care who you are, what you did. If you did something stupid or if you did something underhanded, I'm going to say it. So there's people who call me out, oh, yeah, well, yeah, liberal. It's like, listen, I'm as far from a fucking liberal as you can get. I'm as far from it as you can get. I would accept being called a libertarian, but the thing about it is I'm a registered Republican. I'm as far from a liberal Democrat as you can fucking get. I don't know too many liberal Democrats who are sitting next to 3 AR-15s. I don't know. Legally purchased, by the way, because as we know, Democrats, they carry around illegal hand weapons, handguns, illegal knives. So, my shit's legal. So I don't know about them. But bottom line is this. They are slowly ruining the housing market, and they are slowly raising up population where they can. And it's getting so bad that this is what you're stuck with. You're stuck with people trying to ask as teachers to live with their freaking students. That's how badly it's getting. Wait. The bill named light touch density. Okay, did I skip this part? Okay, wait, where are we? Previously, yeah, I read that part. Supporters of the bill hope additional housing construction will help alleviate the issues plaguing California's housing market. Small multi-unit, missing middle housing is a critical part of ending California's severe housing shortage. Senator Weiner said in a statement to the press, by allowing cities to opt in to use this powerful upzoning tool, we can chip away at our housing crisis in a way that makes sense for the city. So what they're saying is, things are already unaffordable. So what we want to do is we want to turn these new houses that we're building into multi-family dwellings. We want to be able to rent out basements. We want to be able to rent out attics, whatever we can do to drive up the population. And here's the sad thing about it. Most of these people just might go for it. Let me explain why. Let's imagine that you just bought into one of these houses and you're facing a mortgage every month that you can almost barely afford to pay on your own. And let's say that you take your kid to school and she's got an art teacher. Your daughter has an art teacher, or maybe your son has an art teacher. And the art teacher needs a place to stay. And the art teacher, well, you could trust the art teacher. The art teacher is making that good art teacher money, right? Because she's getting paid from the state and the city and whatnot. So you know that she's got a paycheck coming in. So what do? You say, you know what? Teachers need a place to live. How can we expect the children to learn if their teachers can't even live near the schools? So here your art teacher, this art teacher for your son or your daughter, this art teacher needs a place to stay. So what do? You say, well, listen, the art teacher needs a place to stay and I need a tenant to help me pay my mortgage. So let me ask you this. If your son and daughter had a teacher that was in need of a place to stay, especially this art teacher right here who's doing her best, her absolute best to teach these little children the fine art, trying to teach them how to paint and write and scroll and all that art, would you let her live with you? She needs a place to stay. She's doing her best, waking up every day on time, getting to work, coming in, trying to make. I believe the children are a future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Wouldn't you let her in? She's trying to work to make it a better future for you, your children, and your community. Won't you let her in? Put a yes or a no as to whether or not you'd rent out your space to a teacher.